Again, welcome back to the second segment. I am so thrilled to have a special guest here today. By the way, my guest today is a minister of many parts. He has so many things doing in the church and is a veteran in the Church of Jesus Christ. Let me introduce my guest, and that is Pastor Shelley Repp.
Nice to meet you.
And Pastor Shelley is of Copper Point Church here in Albuquerque.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
We have a lot to discuss. I know that
Yes.
your ministry is huge, and thankful for God for what He's doing in your life. Take 1 or 2 minutes to introduce yourself and what you do.
Great. Well, my name is Shelley Repp, and I'm actually the outreach pastor at Copper Point Church. Okay. And at Copper Point, we've really looked at the community. How about that?
Yeah,
We've got enough committees in life. Enough. We've looked at the community, and we've really wanted to develop some intuitive and important things to address the needs of what's happening in Albuquerque. So we've actually got 2 branches of outreach. We have one branch that Lisa was talking about, your guest previous to me.
Yes.
And that is all of our outreach to address just what's happening in our community: poverty, homelessness, education, just those kinds of things that we've got to deal with as we look here and as we live here in Albuquerque. So that's one whole branch. The second branch of outreach that we have and the initiatives we have actually have to do with human trafficking. Wow. So we've got a whole nother side of outreach looking at what is happening in the commercial sex industry and what is our responsibility as the people of God to address those things. So we're busy at Copper Point. We try to keep things hopping down over there.
Wow. You know, I happen to love outreaches myself.
Oh, good.
Yes, I started my ministry in Georgia, and we used to have a lot of outreaches to the homeless community.
Right.
And I'm still doing it here.
Wonderful.
Lisa mentioned Colorado Park, and I was telling her, I come there once in a while, and sometimes they allow me to preach.
Oh, that's wonderful.
From 7 o'clock till 10 o'clock every Saturday.
Right.
In Colorado Park. Let me just throw one question just to you because you mentioned the human trafficking. Just define it in a nutshell for us. What is human trafficking? What is it? If we say human trafficking, what does it simply mean?
Well, human trafficking is taking a person through force, fraud, or coercion and putting them in an industry that they don't get paid for. So essentially it can be labor trafficking, where they're having to work at a restaurant or in the agricultural field, something like that, and they are compelled to do this work. They're not paid for it. And there's that side of human trafficking, and then there's the side of sex trafficking. So in looking at that, you're looking at what's happening with prostitution and behind the scenes that's causing that prostitution to stay on our streets.
Let me read the scripture which I picked up this morning as I was pondering over it, and in the book of Exodus chapter 21, verse number 16, it says, this is God talking to Moses and giving him the laws. He says to him, and he that stealeth a man, or maybe a woman, and selleth him, or if he be found in his hand, he shall surely be put to death.
There you go.
Now, this is God speaking about kidnapping people, taking them against their will, and then forcing them to do stuff which ordinarily they don't want to do. And that is, I guess that fits the definition of human trafficking.
It does. It's really a way of looking at this, and a lot of times people will use the word modern day slavery. And so they akin this whole having to work in whatever industry without compensation and without free will. And so the people don't have the choice to decide to leave or to walk away without threat to themselves or to their families. And as the church, we've turned away and not looked at this for a long time because it's uncomfortable and it's a little bit ugly, and a lot of times within the 4 walls of the church you don't want to talk about sex or prostitution or slavery for any of those things because we're in America and everything's supposed to be beautiful. We're the American church. But the reality is it's out there, and we have the best answers. It is international.
It's just across the border. It's not I mean, people are being trafficked from here, even from America, to other countries. As much as they are bringing people from other countries to America.
It works both ways. We produce victims that are exported, and we receive victims that have been exported from their country. And so we have international, and there's domestic trafficking. What's happening here in the United States, in New Mexico, right now. And we have a trafficking problem right here in Albuquerque as well.
And it looks like because of New Mexico being very close to the border, it's something that is a little bit heightened, is a little bit out of tune. Let me say this too. If you're watching this program, I want to let you know that holding people against their will in situations like this is a sin.
It is.
And that's why the Bible says, where we read now, that if somebody is held against his will, you know, if such a person is caught holding the victim, he should be stoned to death. That was the olden days. But I know that we live under grace, but it's still a sin before God. Whatever way you hold people back from exercising their will, you are against. Now, let me quickly ask you this. Now, how does this sin affect the individual? Because I know that you do meet people that are...
We do. Yeah. Well, when you look at something like this, you're taking a victim that has been broken in so many ways. They've been broken oftentimes ever since they were a child through abuse. Many of them have come out of the foster care system. Many of them come from families where they're not living with the mom and dad, and they have these like red flags, these things that have been in their lives that contribute towards their vulnerability. And so you find the person out there who is able to just really exploit that vulnerability and cause them to do things that they don't initially want to do, but they become part of this whole life. So it's important for us to realize that we need to meet them where they are. They're not going to come knocking on our churches and say, hey, come help me. We need to go out and we need to find where they are and offer the resources that are practical and applicable for them immediately. And that's an important part of what we do. Is we've got teams that go out on the streets on Central for the purpose of talking with the girls that are there. We have teams actually that go into the strip clubs. We wouldn't think about that, but in the strip clubs, that is one of the modes of entry into trafficking. And so we have teams of women that go into the strip clubs and talk with the girls there.
And I think the church is the appropriate clinic for healing these people.
It is.
You know, because you see, when people are emotionally abused, you know, things happen. Don't go away. We're still going to talk about this.
Sure.
Please don't go away, brothers. We have a lot to discuss. I'm talking to Pastor Shelley.
Thank you.